Ladies and gentlemen, the academic procession has begun its approach to the Veale Center. Please clear the aisles and procession routes and take your seats so that the graduates may enter. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Case Western Reserve University's annual Commencement Convocation. Following the British custom, a procession for a ceremony such as this may be led by an official bearing a mace or other symbol of office. A mace is a symbol of authority originating in the military tradition and carried by a marshal. In universities, the mace may be of any length and is carried by the university marshal on all ceremonial occasions. The marshal's mace in our university is patterned after the baton carried by the drum major of a Highland pipe band. The Case Western Reserve University mace was presented to the university by President and Mrs. Lewis A. Tepfer in May 1979. It is made of walnut with a sterling silver crown embossed with the seal of the university. The mace was designed by William Stearns of Potter and Mellon. The medal worn by the president was the gift of President John S. Millis at the time of the 1967 Federation that created Case Western Reserve University. The chain was originally made for a Western Reserve University President's Medal and was the gift of students from Adelbert College. The robe worn by President Snyder signifies her rank and authority as the chief official of the university, rather than reflecting her academic credentials. The president's robe bears the seal of the university and 4 velvet bars known as chevrons on the sleeve. Standard doctor's robes feature only 3 chevrons. Since 2003, this custom regalia has been worn by our doctoral and professional graduates. This ceremony includes the garb of participating faculty and students, a colorful relic of medieval scholastic tradition. The origins of academic dress date back to the early universities of the 12th and 13th centuries. The long gown evolved from the monk's habit, and the hood from the cowl that monks wore over their heads. Some legends say the mortarboard has origins in the skull caps worn by those officiating at religious services. Others say the cap represents a scholar's book and came from Oxford University. The tassel, worn on the square of the mortarboard, developed from the 15th century when caps and hats came into fashion. The various gowns and hoods preserve the style of their medieval origin and indicate by color and design the degree and the institution by which the degree was conferred. Black is the basic color for gowns in the United States. The bachelor's gown is distinguished by its long, open sleeves, the master's by its oblong sleeves, open at the wrist, the doctor's by its full sleeves trimmed with bands of velvet. The velvet on a doctor's gown may be black or a color distinctive of the disciplines to which the degree pertains. The academic hoods vary in length according to the degree and are lined with the colors of the institution from which the degree was earned. Hoods of Case Western Reserve University are lined with blue and silver. The yoke of the hood is faced in a color that indicates the field in which the degree was earned. Colors representing doctoral degrees offered at the university include white for arts and letters, blue for philosophy, gold and yellow for science, green for medicine, purple for law, lilac for dentistry, pink for music, brown for the fine arts, citron for social services, apricot for nursing, drab for business, and orange for engineering. The academic procession is led by University Marshal Robin Dubin, Professor of Economics, President Barbara R. Snyder, and members of the Board of Trustees. The platform party includes our honorary degree recipients and other award winners. The platform party is followed by members of the university faculty and emeriti faculty. Leading the faculty lineup are the distinguished university professors, identified by their position in line and by their medals. The remaining faculty process in order of the date of the first degree earned. The heraldic banners have their origins in medieval custom and were originally used to identify institutions during both battle and ceremony. The banners of Case Western Reserve University have been designed to signify each of the current schools and colleges united by the seal of the university. The banners are carried by senior graduates of Mortarboard, the National Honor Society. The commencement speaker this morning is Dr. Scott Cowen. While at Case Western Reserve, Cowen helped transform business education, gaining international renown for the Weatherhead School of Management. As president of Tulane University, his efforts have also been transformative. Among his many honors, he has been named one of the nation's top 10 college presidents and was recently appointed to the White House Council for Community Solutions. Also during convocation, we will present the President's Award for Visionary Achievement to alumnus Tinkham Veale II. Last summer, the Veale Foundation's $20 million gift launched the university's efforts to build a new university center. This is just the latest chapter in Mr. Veale's history of generosity, which has enhanced student life at Case Western Reserve for decades. He has consistently supported the university almost every year since his graduation nearly 75 years ago. His leadership gifts have supported the construction of several university facilities, including this Convocation Center. The President's Award for Visionary Achievement recognizes individuals like Tink Veale, who have distinguished themselves through exceptional support of the university and whose history of philanthropic service to the university, the world, or humanity has made a profound, positive, and lasting impact on the university's mission. During the convocation ceremony, we will award 4 honorary degrees. Scott Cowen, Tulane University's 14th president and an internationally recognized business scholar and committed civic leader. Vaclav Havel, Czech playwright, essayist, poet, dissident, and politician. John Schutt, geologist and mountaineer, credited with keeping hundreds of scientists safe in the harsh climate of Antarctica. Iqbal Qadir, advocate of commerce-based, entrepreneurial solutions for creating prosperity in low-income countries. In addition to our honorary degree recipients, approximately 2,000 candidates will receive diplomas from the university today. Degree candidates from the graduate and professional schools are presented to the president in the order in which each school was established in the university. The undergraduate students will be presented last in today's order. More than 100 students, staff, and volunteers are assisting during today's ceremony. They are identified by their blue commencement shirts. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the academic procession. Ladies and gentlemen, the University Marshal, Robin Dubin.
The 2011 Commencement Convocation ceremony is hereby convened. Please stand and remain standing for the playing of the national anthem and for the invocation. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the invocation delivered by Sister Juanita Shealey from the congregation St. Joseph in Cleveland, Ohio.
A moment of reflection. Gracious and loving God, we thank you for this glorious day as we celebrate the graduation from Case Western Reserve University of the class of 2011. Bless their parents, relatives, and friends, and all who value excellence in education. Thank you for the president of Case Western Reserve University, faculty, and staff. Graduates, you are the generation prepared to get it right. The world awaits your skill and all that you have to offer. Remember, those who bring sunshine to the lives of others cannot keep it from themselves. God bless you. Congratulations.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. The president of Case Western Reserve University, Barbara R. Snyder.
Good morning. To the class of 2011, I have first just one word for you: congratulations. Today, it is my pleasure to welcome you and a host of special guests. First, our honorary degree recipients, Scott Cowen, Iqbal Kadir, and John Schutt, our distinguished award winners, trustees of the university, our platform participants, faculty, staff, alumni, and friends. With us today is the chair of our Board of Trustees, Charles Koch, known to all of us as Bud. Bud, would you please stand? Bud, don't sit down. Bud has been a member of the board since 1999 and assumed its leadership in 2008. The former chairman and CEO of Charter One Financial, Bud possesses a keen analytical mind and a wonderful sense of perspective. I am grateful for his wisdom, his insight, and his ability to zero in on what is most important in any complex situation. But on this auspicious occasion, let me say on behalf of the entire university, thank you for all you do for Case Western Reserve. Also with us today are two individuals whose contributions to the university cannot be overstated. Let me ask one and then the other to stand up. First, May L. Weichel. May, please stand. May holds, no, don't sit down yet, please. May holds 3 degrees from this institution. She has spent 42 years on our faculty, the last 10 as Dean of the Francis Payne Bolton School of Nursing. 4 years ago, her many admirers came together to create the May L. Weichel Professorship in her honor. Today's ceremony marks May's last as Dean. This summer, she returns to the faculty where she will focus on teaching and research full-time. May, for all that you have done for your school, the university, and your profession, let me just say congratulations and best wishes on the next stage of your career, and thank you. Now, Robert H. Rawson, Jr., Interim Dean of the School of Law. Please stand up. Bob came to Case Western Reserve in the fall of 2008 from his role as partner in charge at the Jones Day Law Firm's Cleveland office. He brought his outstanding leadership skills to our law school. We initially thought his service would last only months. Now, nearly 3 years later, Bob has become a valued member of our university leadership team and a revered figure among our students and our alumni. Bob, Case Western Reserve will always be grateful that you answered our call. Your very presence eased concerns while your thoughtful engagement advanced the school immeasurably. Now, as your time as our dean draws to a close, I want to wish you the very best in all of your pursuits: law, higher education, leadership, and of course, the fine art of being a grandparent. Before you take your seat, though, I want to add one more thing. In recognition of your extraordinary service to the university, some of your supporters have come together to create the Robert H. Rawson, Jr. Endowed Scholarship at the School of Law. These alumni have already secured a few sizable donations, and now that the drive is public, I expect that we will see many more in your honor. So you leave with our deepest appreciation. Thank you. Next, I want to recognize an especially esteemed group making its first ever appearance at Case Western Reserve's commencement ceremony, our distinguished university professors. Please stand as I call your name. Cynthia M. Bell, Anthropology. Hold your applause till the end, please. Richard E. Boyatzis, Organizational Behavior. Robert C. Elston, Epidemiology and Biostatistics. Richard W. Hansen, Biochemistry. Arthur H. Hoyer, Material Science and Engineering. Terry Hockenstad, Applied Social Sciences, and Hunter Peckham, Biomedical Engineering. The Distinguished University Professorship recognizes individuals of extraordinary accomplishment in research, teaching, and service. These individuals have achieved international renown in their fields and have inspired new levels of enthusiasm and understanding among their students. They have also demonstrated unparalleled dedication to the best interests of our university. In August, we welcome 6 new distinguished university professors, and we look forward to adding to their ranks. But for now, let me just say to this remarkable group, thank you for your outstanding contributions to Case Western Reserve University. All of us are honored to have you in our community and with us today. Thank you. Finally, I want to extend an especially heartfelt welcome to the parents, grandparents, spouses, children, and all the other family and friends of our graduates who are gathered here today to celebrate with them. On behalf of all of us at Case Western Reserve, I want to thank you for everything you did to help them achieve this extraordinary accomplishment. Please join me, and all of the students, please thank your moms and dads and your family members, brothers, sisters, grandparents for all their help. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our Provost and Executive Vice President, Bud Bazelak.
Thank you, Madam President, faculty, students, and families and friends. The commencement program includes brief biographies of all of today's award winners. The Frank and Dorothy Hummel Hovorka Prize is annually awarded to a faculty member whose exceptional achievements in teaching, research, and scholarly service have benefited the community, the nation, and the world. The prize was created by Mrs. Hovorka, a longtime friend, honorary trustee of the university, and 2009 honorary degree recipient. Her husband, the late Frank Hovorka, was for many years a distinguished member of the faculty of the Department of Chemistry. This year, our Hovorka Prize winner is from the Case School of Engineering. Madam President, on behalf of the Hovorka Prize Committee, I present John Angus.
John Angus, you are renowned internationally for your pioneering research on diamond growth and respected across our campus for your commitment to the Case School of Engineering. No matter how exalted your stature in the field, your colleagues report that you may remain much the same man who first joined the faculty in 1963, modest, unassuming, and always willing to offer insight and advice to faculty and students alike. Your fundamental breakthrough that diamond could be grown at low pressure was so revolutionary that some initially greeted it with skepticism. Over time, you convinced the doubters of the truth of your discovery and went on to expand its application to realms as varied as power electronics and biocompatible coatings. You hold 13 patents, membership in the National Academy of Engineering, and status as a fellow of both the American Institute of Chemical Engineers and the Electrochemical Society, In addition, you have advised more than 50 graduate students, served 2 terms as chair of the Department of Chemical Engineering, and 1 year as the interim dean of the Case School of Engineering. John Angus, I confer upon you the Frank and Dorothy Hummel Hovorka Prize for 2011 in recognition of your many important contributions to Case Western Reserve University, to our community, to the nation, and to the world. And now we turn to the President's Award for Visionary Achievement. This award recognizes individuals who have distinguished themselves through significant and exceptional support to Case Western Reserve. Recipients demonstrate a history of prominent philanthropic engagement with the university, humanity, and the world. Tinkham Veale II came to the Case Institute of Technology nearly 80 years ago from Topeka, Kansas. An avid athlete, he thrived during his undergraduate years, pursuing studies in mechanical engineering. During that time, he wrote a thesis about the possibility of air conditioning automobiles. Some people thought the idea so absurd, they called him a crazy kid. In that area, as in so many others, Tink was ahead of his time. In 1960, he joined with a handful of trusted colleagues to create Alco Standard Corporation. The business operated on a simple model: buy small, promising companies, keep the management in place, and give those managers a stake in their company's success. In Tink's hands, the approach of autonomy with accountability proved to be genius. By 1996, Alco had 36,000 employees and annual sales of $10 billion. Throughout all those years and all of that success, Tink never forgot his alma mater. In fact, he found his time on our campus to be so rewarding that he committed to give back to the university every year. Today, we celebrate commencement in the Recreation Center made possible by a generous gift from Tink. Our students benefit from academic programs supported by Tink, and in just a few years, our entire community will enjoy a new gathering space in the heart of our campus, the Tinkham Veale II University Center. Tinkham Veale stands as an example of entrepreneurial success and alumni engagement. He believes passionately in the importance of individual leadership, as well as the value of honing those skills in the undergraduate setting. Because Tink was unable to be with us today in person, we held an informal ceremony with him earlier this week in his home. For all that you have done in the world, in the nation, and in this community, it is my honor to announce that you, Tinkham Veale II, are the 2011 recipient of the President's Award for Visionary Achievement. It is also my honor to present you with this stole.
What? How nice. How beautiful.
And here is the plaque.
Oh my goodness.
We're going to have you hang that up somewhere here.
Can I see it?
You certainly may.
Oh boy. Isn't this wonderful? How sweet and nice of you. Isn't that nice?
Thank you, all of our students, for helping us. For those of you in the audience, we are filming today's ceremony to share with Tink, and since he couldn't be with us to experience our appreciation live, we ask our students to help convey that by showing those signs, and if you couldn't see them, they said, "Thank you, Tink." So he will get to see that. Thank you all for your help in expressing our appreciation. It is wonderful that we can thank him for all he has done. This building, this celebration is being held here because of Tink Veale. And I hope you will all come back to visit the University Center in a few years. Now, Provost Bazelak.
Madam President, I have the honor to present candidates for the degrees honoris causa. On behalf of the Honorary Degree Committee of the Case Western Reserve University faculty, it is my distinct honor to present candidates for the degrees honoris causa. Madam President, on behalf of the Honorary Degree Committee of the University faculty, I present Vaclav Havel as a candidate for the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters honoris causa. Playwright, prisoner, and president. For nearly 75 years, Vaclav Havel endured upheaval and injustice, censorship and incarceration, yet never lost his passion to speak truth and advance human rights. As a young man, he publicly challenged the idea that art must align with prevailing politics. In the decades that followed, his plays and essays increasingly challenged encumbered authorities, so much so that in 1969, the government banned his writings altogether. In subsequent years, Havel was imprisoned repeatedly, including one stint that lasted for more than 4 years. Yet Vaclav Havel's commitment to the cause of freedom never wavered. And in 1989, citizen unrest ultimately forced out the sitting prime minister and led to Havel's unanimous election as the country's new president. Illness has prevented Mr. Havel from joining us today, but we are nevertheless privileged to award him this degree and thank him for the lessons of his life teaches us all. As he has said, the salvation of this human world lies nowhere else than in the human heart, in the human power to reflect, in human meekness and human responsibility.
On the recommendation of the university faculty and vote of the Board of Trustees, it is my pleasure to admit Vaclav Havel to the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters honoris causa with all the rights and privileges pertaining thereto.
Madam President, on behalf of the Honorary Degree Committee of the University faculty, I present Iqbal Qadir as a candidate for the degree of Doctor of Science honoris causa. Iqbal Qadir believes that connectivity is productivity and proved that point in the 1990s with the founding of Gramophone, a cellular network in Bangladesh that provides telephone access to more than 100 million people in rural areas. As the founding director of the Legatum Center for Development and Entrepreneurship at MIT, he helps promote the idea that technology can provide extraordinary opportunities to promote prosperity among low-income citizens in developing countries.
Iqbal Kadir, for your foresight in recognizing the economic power of communication, and on the recommendation of the university faculty and vote of the Board of Trustees, it is my pleasure to admit you to the degree of Doctor of Science honoris causa with all the rights and privileges pertaining thereto, to bestow upon you the hood of this university and to grant you the diploma.
Madam President, on behalf of the Honorary Degree Committee of the University faculty, I present John Schutt as a candidate for the degree of Doctor of Science honoris causa. The New York Times calls John Schutt a guiding hand on icy terrain. Others call him Johnny Alpine. Whatever the moniker used, Schutt's mission is the same: to ensure that scientists who travel to Antarctica in search of meteorites return alive. In Schutt, researchers willing to brave frigid winds and the frozen tundra in the name of science find a guide committed to their success and survival. In honoring him with the 2007 Service Award, the International Organization for the Study of Meteorites estimated that he has likely recovered more of these stones from space than anyone else on Earth. Case Western Reserve University geology professor Ralph Harvey speaks for hundreds when he says of Schutt, "We need him down there."
John Schutt, for your courageous service to advancing our scientific understanding, and on the recommendation of the university faculty and vote of the Board of Trustees, it is my pleasure to admit you to the degree of Doctor of Science honoris causa with all the rights and privileges pertaining thereto, to bestow upon you the hood of this university and to grant you this diploma.
Madam President, on behalf of the Honorary Degree Committee of the University faculty, I present Scott Cowen as a candidate for the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa. As the president of Tulane University, Scott Cowen was responsible for ensuring the safe evacuation of students, staff, and faculty as Hurricane Katrina approached in August of 2005. As harrowing as those initial days were, he faced an even greater challenge in ensuring the very survival of the institution in the weeks and months that followed. 5 years later, Tulane received 44,000 applications for the class of 2014. Scott Cowen had been named one of Time Magazine's top 10 college presidents, and the city's newspaper, Times-Picayune, had named Cowen the 2010 winner of the Loving Cup, honoring him for his civic contributions to New Orleans revival.
Scott Cowen, for your wise and courageous leadership, and on the recommendation of the university faculty and vote of the Board of Trustees, it is my pleasure to admit you to the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa, with all the rights and privileges pertaining thereto, to bestow upon you the hood of this university and to grant you this diploma. Now, Scott's work is not done today. Before Scott gained national acclaim for his extraordinary work at Tulane, he spent nearly a quarter century at Case Western Reserve, including 14 years as Dean of the Weatherhead School of Management. During that time, he worked with faculty to transform the school's MBA program, drawing national acclaim and dramatically increasing applications. Scott is best known nationally for taking the steps necessary to keep Tulane viable after Hurricane Katrina put the majority of the campus, both of its campuses, underwater. Yet it is his actions after the immediate crisis, specifically his wholehearted embrace of the connection between the city and the university that help both to thrive. He has taken a leading role in reviewing the school system, in redeveloping the parish, and in promoting New Orleans to politicians and CEOs across the country. Decades ago, Scott helped ensure that the students at the Weatherhead School learned about the essential elements of effective leadership. Today, his work at Tulane is cited as a prime example of that model. In Scott Cowen, people find compassion and candor, common sense, and an unyielding commitment to advancing the community. It is my great honor to present Scott Cowen, our 2011 commencement speaker, to all of you this morning.
Good morning to the graduating class of 2011, and good morning to everyone in the audience and online here to celebrate the accomplishments of these extraordinary students. It is truly a pleasure and an honor for me to be back at Case Western Reserve University, where I spent 23 years as a professor and dean of the Weatherhead School of Management. When President Snyder asked me to speak today, I was absolutely delighted to do so. But since we are such good friends, she disclosed to me that some really famous person had originally been scheduled to speak today. However, when circumstances beyond his control forced him to cancel, the Student Speaker Selection Committee had to reconvene to select a new speaker. As I understand it, by the way, the final selection process was quite competitive and fiercely debated in discussing the candidates back and forth. And in the end, the choice came down to me and one other person. President Snyder called me and she said, "I'm so excited to tell you that you won the vote, but it was close." And I said to her, "Wow, I am truly thrilled. I am honored. But out of curiosity, who was the other choice?" She whispered, "LeBron James." But with all due respect to any other possible speakers, I do believe I have more in common with the graduates than most. First, we are all receiving our degrees from CWRU today. For most of you, it probably took 4 to 8 years to earn your degree. In contrast, it actually took me 36 years. Obviously, you were much faster in meeting the academic standards of this university than I was. Then again, there may be 1 or 2 of you in the audience who is also on the 36-year plan. Or even worse, many of your parents think you were on the 36-year plan. Another thing we have in common is that we both have experienced the emotional highs and lows of living in Cleveland. Most of our highs and lows are associated with the success or lack thereof of the Browns, the Cavaliers, and the Indians. Despite their records, we all love them and believe each new season will be the big one. I just hope the big one happens before I have the big one and pass from this earth. But my motto is never give up. I live in New Orleans now, home of the Who Dat Nation and the New Orleans Saints, formerly known as the Aints, a team that made for many years losing an art form. And yet now, people there still celebrate the victory against the Colts in the 2010 Super Bowl. So it can happen. And right now, the Cleveland Indians have their best shot at the big one. Go Indians. CWRU in Cleveland have shaped your life as it has mine. In my case, it also prepared me to confront challenges I could never have imagined. It is this topic, how to cope with a challenge that either destroys you or makes you stronger, that I want to discuss for just a few minutes. For me, that test came on August 29th, 2005. Katrina's impact on the New Orleans area was horrific and unprecedented. More than 1,800 people died. Most died in the floodwaters or asphyxiation. 200,000 homes were destroyed. Over 400,000 people lost their jobs. And 80% of the parish's landmass was flooded for 57 days. And by the way, 80% of the landmass of New Orleans is equal to 7 times the size of Manhattan. When we finally cleaned up New Orleans, months after the storm, the amount of debris we took out of New Orleans was 4 times what they took out of New York City after 9/11. The population of New Orleans that was 460,000 before the storm was 10,000 within 2 weeks after the storm, the largest diaspora in the history of the United States. And we lost basic services that anyone would expect from their city and their state for weeks and for months. The storm caused $650 million worth of damage to Tulane. Our health sciences campus, including our hospital, was flooded with an average of 3 feet of water for weeks. And 2/3 of our main campus also sustained significant flood damage, including 84 buildings. We became the first major university in the United States to close for an entire semester since the Civil War. Most people thought we would never recover, and if we did, we could never regain our stature and reputation. In time, we proved all the naysayers wrong. I told you the facts or the impact of Hurricane Katrina. What I haven't told you is how I felt about it. It's something I don't talk about very often in public because it's too painful. It's too personal. But I ask you this. Have you ever been in a situation where one day your life is fine and the next day it is in chaos? Where everything that gives you comfort and joy disappears into despair, hopelessness, and anxiety? That makes you feel like your heart is going to burst out of your chest and you will never be the same. This is what it felt like. As I stand before you today, 99% of me is with you, but 1% of me is with the Louisiana Cajun country, because as we speak, they are being flooded. 3,000 square miles of floodwater coming from the Morganza spillover to protect New Orleans. 25,000 people will be disrupted because of this. 11,000 structures will be damaged, and the average floodwaters will be 25 feet. Yet I have to tell you, despite everything that happened to us 6 years ago, I've never been more optimistic about the future of New Orleans and Tulane. This optimism is not just wishful thinking. Rather, it is grounded in the well-documented progress we have made. What is the source of my optimism? What is my source of optimism for those in the Mississippi Delta, in Alabama, in Haiti? I have witnessed the resilience of people. I have seen the human spirit rise to levels that are unimaginable. And I have seen people who I thought could never recover do whatever it took to make sure that they were not destroyed. This is where my optimism comes from. As I reflect back on my Katrina experience, I learned a few lessons that may be helpful to the graduates as you leave the safe confines of campus and find your way in the world. The first lesson is hope is not a plan. Hope is not a plan. A tragedy the scope of what we have seen in New Orleans, Haiti, Japan, and now Alabama and Mississippi often overwhelms and paralyzes everyone affected by it, especially in the immediate aftermath. In the days and weeks after Katrina, people just hoped that someone, especially the government, would come in and make things better. The fact is, they did not. Hope is a wonderful thing, but it must be balanced with reality. Hope inspires us, while reality often overwhelms us, but it also grounds us. Yet a dose of both is needed to overcome what we face and to achieve what we dream. I know all the graduates in here have invested much hope in their dreams, but you will fulfill these dreams not by merely hoping they come true or counting on someone else to bring them about, but by committing yourself day in and day out to the realization. My second lesson is learn to face your fears. I was on the Tulane campus in New Orleans during the storm and for 5 days after. During that time, I existed on adrenaline and survival instincts. I, like everyone else, searched for food and water and stood guard around the clock with guns as looters roamed our neighborhoods. We had no power, no communications, no sewer, and no water supply. And that was for weeks. The temperature was in the high 90s, and it was matched by the humidity. For all intensive purposes, Tulane University in New Orleans did not exist, but in name only. I want to tell you about my story of evacuation, because it's been well told in America. It involved me and some of my colleagues siphoning gasoline out of cars that had been abandoned. It involved us taking a boat and rigging that boat so we could ride out of New Orleans where there was water. It took hot wiring a golf cart, commandeering a dump truck, driving to the edge of the Mississippi River, and hailing down a helicopter. That's how I left New Orleans. By the way, 2 weeks later, I was on the Today Show, and I believe it was Matt Lauer, and he asked me to recount my evacuation from New Orleans, and I told him the story. His first question was, I don't understand how a university president has these skills. And I said, Matt, there are two things I want you to know. I wasn't born a university president, but I was born and raised in New Jersey. Once I evacuated to Houston, Texas, and finally saw on TV the magnitude of the disaster, my fears immobilized me. I broke down in tears because I had no idea of what was going on in New Orleans. I only knew what was going on my patch of wet land where I was. I had no idea what to do. There was no book I could get out of any library to tell me what to do, and no one I could call. So I called the one person in my life who I trust more than any other, and it was my wife. I actually called her at 3 o'clock in the morning from a hotel room, and I told her I felt completely helpless. I didn't know what to do. And as she so often does, she asked me what I had done in the past when I found myself overwhelmed and afraid. And I said to her, first of all, I try to control what I can as opposed to what I cannot. I try to focus on the most important tasks that allow me to move forward while not being distracted with things that can wait for another day. Finally, I rely on those closest to me for support and guidance, knowing that we all need help at certain times. We ended the conversation by her telling me to stick to these tried and true methods to cope with what I feared. I asked the graduates, and I want you to be honest in your heart. Is there any graduate sitting here today who can claim to have absolutely no fear of the future? I suspect not. It is normal to be overwhelmed and afraid in the face of uncertainty, which many of you are facing. But once you realize that this is normal, self-doubt becomes secondary and problem-solving becomes primary, which leads me to my third lesson. Know what your end goal is. As you work through any seemingly impossible situation, it is always wise to determine the end goal you are trying to achieve. For us, the ultimate goal was renewal, a total re-envisioning of what the university and city could be in the future. In the immediate aftermath of any disaster, personal or otherwise, the initial priorities are survival and recovery. Yet these are not enough. as we, as survivors, have an obligation to those who suffered and sacrificed so much to learn from what transpired, to renew ourselves, and to help others in need as others have assisted us. This is why my university is so actively involved, not only in New Orleans, but around the world. You too have a responsibility. You are all privileged. You are not privileged because you came from great wealth. You are not privileged because you had an easy life. But you are privileged because you graduated from one of the finest universities in the world. And with that privilege comes responsibilities. Because your success is also the result of the sacrifices made by others who instilled in you the value of learning and the means to achieve your dreams. Your responsibility is to go forward, to reach out to others in need so you can do for them what others have done for you. Every fall convocation, I remind entering students that when people pass from this earth, they are never remembered for what they did for themselves. They are only remembered for what they did for others. There is one final lesson I learned during Katrina, and you've heard this before, but it bears repeating. We are each defined more by how we handle adversity and failure than we are by our successes. I wish all of you many successes and little to no adversity or failure in your lives. But the truth is, while you may not face a hurricane, you will have your own storms to survive. When that moment arrives, you must find your own path to renewal as we did. Defeat is not an option. Defeat is not an option. Renewal is the goal. In closing, let me share with you the first message I sent to the Tulane community after I was airlifted from New Orleans. Quote, "It is difficult to describe what the situation feels like. For those of us involved, it is surreal and unfathomable. Yet there is light at the end of the tunnel. Our focus is on the light and not on the darkness. 6 years later, we're still focused on the light. As I close, I would only ask one thing of all our graduates. Please, please, use your knowledge, your skills, your passion, and your degree to become engaged citizens and leaders of the world, and to help others find the light. If you do so, you will truly make a difference in the world." Congratulations to the graduating class of 2011.
The deans of the schools and colleges will now present candidates for degrees to be conferred today. Also to be presented are graduates whose degrees were officially conferred in August and January and who have returned to participate in today's ceremony. Dean Pamela Davis will present candidates from the School of Medicine.
Madam President, I have the honor of presenting from the School of Medicine, including the Cleveland Clinic Lerner College of Medicine, candidates for the degree of Doctor of Medicine.
Will these candidates please rise?
By order of the Board of Trustees and by virtue of the authority vested in me, I now confer upon these candidates the degree of Doctor of Medicine and admit them to the honors, rights, privileges, and obligations pertaining thereto.
Please be seated. Dean Norman Tien will present candidates from the Case School of Engineering.
Madam President, I have the honor of presenting from the Case School of Engineering candidates for the degree of Master of Engineering.
Will these candidates please rise?
By order of the Board of Trustees and by virtue of the authority vested in me, I now confer upon these candidates the degree of Master of Engineering and admit them to the honors, rights, privileges, and obligations pertaining thereto.
Dean Charles Rozek will present candidates from the School of Graduate Studies.
Madam President, I have the honor of presenting from the School of Graduate Studies candidates for the degrees of Master of Arts, Master of Fine Arts, Master of Public Health, Master of Science, or Master of Science in the fields of engineering.
Will these candidates please rise?
By order of the Board of Trustees and by virtue of the authority vested in me, I now confer upon these candidates the degree of Master of Arts, Master of Fine Arts, Master of Public Health, Master of Science, or Master of Science in the fields of engineering, and admit them to the honors, rights, privileges, and obligations pertaining thereto.
Please be seated.
Madam President, I have the honor of presenting from the School of Graduate Studies candidates for the degree of Doctor of Musical Arts or Doctor of Philosophy.
Will these candidates please rise?
By order of the Board of Trustees and by virtue of the authority vested in me, I now confer upon these candidates the degree of Doctor of Musical Arts or Doctor of Philosophy and admit them to the honors, rights, privileges, and obligations pertaining thereto.
Please be seated. Interim Dean Robert Rawson will present candidates from the Franklin Thomas Backus School of Law.
Madam President, I have the honor of presenting from the Franklin Thomas Backus School of Law candidates for the degrees of Juris Doctor or Master of Laws.
Will these candidates please rise?
By order of the Board of Trustees and by virtue of the authority vested in me, I now confer upon these candidates the degree of Juris Doctor or Master of Laws and admit them to the honors, rights, privileges, and obligations pertaining thereto.
Please be seated. Dean Gerald Goldberg will present candidates from the School of Dental Medicine.
Madam President, I have the honor to present from the School of Dental Medicine candidates for the degree of Doctor of Dental Medicine.
Will these candidates please rise?
By order of the Board of Trustees and by virtue of the authority vested in me, I now confer upon these candidates the degree of Doctor of Dental Medicine and admit them to the honors, rights, privileges, and obligations pertaining thereto.
Please be seated. Dean Grover Cleveland Gilmore will present candidates from the Mandel School of Applied Social Sciences.
Madam President, I have the honor of presenting from the Mandel School of Applied Social Sciences candidates for the degree of Master of Science in Social Administration or Master of Nonprofit Organizations.
Will these candidates please rise?
By order of the Board of Trustees and by virtue of the authority vested in me, I now confer upon these candidates the degree of Master of Science in Social Administration or Master of Nonprofit Organizations and admit them to the honors, rights, privileges, and obligations pertaining thereto.
Please be seated. Dean May Weichel will present candidates from the Francis Payne Bolton School of Nursing.
Madam President, I have the honor of presenting from the Francis Payne Bolton School of Nursing candidates for the degree of Master of Nursing, Master of Science in Nursing, or Doctor of Nursing Practice.
Will these candidates please rise?
By order of the Board of Trustees and by virtue of the authority vested in me, I now confer upon these candidates the degree of Master of Nursing, Master of Science in Nursing, or Doctor of Nursing Practice, and admit them to the honors, rights, privileges, and obligations pertaining thereto.
Please be seated. Dean Mohan Reddy will present candidates from the Weatherhead School of Management.
Madam President, I have the honor of presenting from the Weatherhead School of Management candidates for the degree of Doctor of Management, Master of Accountancy, Master of Business Administration, Master of Science in Management, Master of Science in Positive Organization Development and Change, or Master of Engineering and Management.
Will these candidates please rise?
By order of the Board of Trustees and by virtue of the authority vested in me, I now confer upon these candidates the degree of Doctor of Management, Master of Accountancy, Master of Business Administration, Master of Science in Management, Master of Science in Positive Organizational Development and Change, or Master of Engineering and Management, and admit them to the honors, rights, privileges, and obligations pertaining thereto.
Please be seated. The undergraduate candidates from the Weatherhead School of Management, the Francis Payne Bolton School of Nursing, the Case School of Engineering, and the College of Arts and Sciences will be presented by Deans Mohan Reddy, May Weichel, Norman Tien, and Cyrus Taylor, respectively.
Madam President, I have the honor of presenting from the Weatherhead School of Management candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Science in Accountancy and Bachelor of Science in Management.
Will these candidates please rise and remain standing?
Madam President, I have the honor of presenting from the Francis Payne Bolton School of Nursing candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Science in Nursing.
Will these candidates please rise and remain standing?
Madam President, I have the honor of presenting from the Case School of Engineering candidates for the degrees of Bachelor of Science in Computer Science and Bachelor of Science in Engineering.
Will these candidates please rise and remain standing?
Madam President, I have the honor of presenting from the College of Arts and Sciences candidates for the degrees of Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Science as described in the program.
Will these candidates please rise and remain standing?
These candidates, having met all requirements of their course of study, having been certified to the Board of Trustees as meriting the degree Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science as described in the program, by order of the Board of Trustees and by virtue of the authority vested in me, I now confer upon these candidates their degree and admit them to the honors, rights, privileges, and obligations pertaining thereto.
Please be seated.
In recognition of the degrees just conferred, diplomas and the appropriate hoods will be presented by each dean at separate school or college diploma ceremonies following the convocation. Graduates, I have just one more thing to say to you. You did it. Congratulations. And a final thank you to our commencement speaker, Scott Cowen. We at Case Western Reserve University are privileged to count you as one of our graduates today, complete with your own diploma. And after that speech, I am confident that even the toughest graders at Weatherhead would say that those honors are richly deserved for all that you've done for this university, for higher education nationwide, for your city, for this city, and for everyone in the world who has watched your leadership. We know that you should know you have our profound admiration and gratitude, Scott. Now it is my pleasure to introduce James Trelevin, President of the Alumni Association of Case Western Reserve University. Jim, a 1969 graduate of Case Institute of Technology, returned to campus to complete a PhD in 1990 from the School of Graduate Studies. Jim is a dedicated alumnus and a great friend of the university. He will provide the official welcome to our newest alumni.
President, let me add my personal congratulations to all of you on your accomplishments while here at Case Western Reserve University. When I graduated from this institution more than just a few years ago for the first time, I was warmly welcomed by the alumni family, and I am pleased to extend that welcome to you today. You are all now officially lifetime members of the Alumni Association of Case Western Reserve University, an outstanding group of more than 105,000 men and women throughout the world. And let me give you just some personal examples from the last 10 days or so of the extent and diversity of that wonderful community. First, I had lunch with a recent graduate of the Weatherhead School, who's the founder and CEO of a very promising startup in Chicago. Then I went to Washington, D.C. for the meeting of the Executive Committee of Tech America, the largest association representing technology firms in the U.S. 3 of the 12 members of that committee are graduates of this university, including the chief scientist at AT&T. And finally, I went to church on Sunday and listened to a brilliant sermon from the assistant priest at our church, who spent 40 years as a renowned biblical scholar and professor and has a PhD from Case Western Reserve University. It's your association, and it's here to help you with your professional and personal development, no matter where your career takes you. Alumni events are held here in Cleveland and chapters around the world and the country, including cities such as Washington, D.C., Chicago, where I live, and Tokyo. Your Alumni Association needs your participation in order to pass on our history and traditions to future generations of students and keep this university great. Because the entire university community is eager to celebrate your achievements, please, and I repeat, please stay connected and involved in the many opportunities that are available. Last but not least, I would like to invite you to return to campus and visit the Alumni House, your beautiful new home away from home. Again, congratulations, and we wish you all the very best.
Please rise and join us in the singing of the Alma Mater, which can be found on page 6 of your program. Our Alma Mater will be led by our singers, Aaron Baskin and Molly Clifford.
Loyal and true are we.
Please be seated. This concludes our convocation. Our marshals will now lead the graduate and professional schools to their next locations, which are listed on page 4 of the commencement program. Undergraduate candidates will remain seated, and our undergraduate diploma ceremony will follow shortly. Guests should remain seated. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain at your seats until the graduate and professional schools exit the Veale Center. The undergraduate diploma ceremony will begin at 11 o'clock.